very important day for you. In this seminar, I'm going to teach you some basic information that you need to know so that you can speak with anyone in the world, understand what they say, express your ideas, and effectively communicate in English. To succeed today, you'll need to watch this seminar from beginning to end, follow my instructions, write notes, and take action. If you listen to what I tell you today and you take action and follow my instructions, then you can go to level 2, where you'll have speaking practice with native speakers, teachers, and people from around the world every day. If you succeed there, then you can join level 3, where we will work with you individually to achieve your goals. During our seminar today, you can write in the chat box on the right side of the screen. At the end of the seminar, I'm going to be answering some questions, and you can write your questions during the seminar or after in the chat box, and we'll try to answer you as quickly as possible. Our goal today is to give you all of the information and resources that you need to start speaking with anyone from any country. I'm going to show you how you can learn listening, reading, grammar, vocabulary, and everything else very easily. I'm also going to tell you some important facts about learning English that you've probably never heard before. It's sad but true that most people don't know these important facts, and today I'm going to tell you this information that nobody else is teaching. So what you need to know right now is that the information and resources I'm going to share with you today have helped thousands of students from all over the world learn English. It's helped them move abroad, study at universities and schools in English-speaking countries, get high-paying jobs in international companies, and much more. I'm going to give you the same information that I usually teach my VIP students. I've taught almost 20,000 hours of lessons over the past 10 years, and I've helped thousands of students reach their goals and change their lives. In 2011, I started my first teaching business. I started an English center where students can speak with native speakers and take lessons with professional teachers. My school was so popular that I had to hire more teachers and then more teachers. That's when I became a different type of teacher, because I started teaching other teachers how to teach. I became a teacher trainer. I've taught teachers from lots of different countries how to teach English effectively. Then I became a business coach, and I taught teachers how to start a teaching business. After some time, I started another teaching business myself. Now we teach English online, and every day students from every country in the world can learn to speak English correctly, fluently, and with confidence. In fact, let me show you a few of our star students and show you what they've achieved. So right now you should see on the screen lots of students from lots of different countries who have made short videos telling me about the results that they got and the success that they had after going through my program. So you can see that there's people who have given me feedback in lots of different languages, in Russian and Arabic and Chinese, Bulgarian, Italian, Thai, Portuguese, plus there's even more, and these results are absolutely amazing. So here's what we're going to do in this seminar today. First, we're going to talk about your goals for learning English. Usually when you meet a teacher for the first time, the teacher asks you questions like, why are you learning English? Or why do you need English? And those are important questions because you need to have a reason or a purpose. Most students who want to study with me don't have goals, and they're surprised that our first lesson is usually about understanding their goals. If we don't have goals, then we'll never know when we're successful. If we want to be successful, then we have to have goals. So we're going to start with goals. I'm going to give you some free resources to help you improve your English language skills. In fact, right now, you can join some of the resources that I've created for English learners. So there are lots of great resources available online if you know where to look. But you have to be careful because there are also a lot of bad resources that will teach you the wrong things. So I'm going to give you some free resources that you can trust and tell you how you can use them. I made them specially for this seminar, so if you stay until the end of the seminar, you can download them and use them, and I know that you're going to love them because they're very, very useful, and they're going to help you reach your goals. So stay until the end, and you get those for free. Then we're going to talk about what it really means to speak English fluently. A lot of people don't understand what this word really means. Students say that they want to speak fluently, and a lot of them just say it because they hear other people using that word. It's a problem because they'll never really know if they're fluent or not. Being fluent in English might mean something different to you and to other people, so it's important to really understand what it means. After that, we're going to talk about how to speak without an accent and how to have perfect pronunciation. This is another thing that almost every student in the last 10 years has said to me. They say, I want to speak like a native speaker, or I want to speak without an accent. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how you can really perfect your pronunciation. Next, I'm going to tell you the 3 biggest mistakes that you are making in English and how you can fix them. And I guarantee that no one else has told you this before. Nobody is teaching this. I've spoken with thousands of teachers from around the world and nobody else teaches anything about this, but it's really so important to learn. So I'm going to tell you how you can use it to improve your English today. Then I'm going to show you the best English learning resource for speaking that exists anywhere today. This is going to blow your mind and completely change your life. Using this resource, you can find a speaking partner or many different speaking partners from anywhere in the world and practice speaking English every day. You can even find native speakers and professional teachers there too. This is a really big resource that you're going to want to have. And then, if you follow all of my instructions in this seminar today and you stay with me until the end, I have a very special, very big discount for you to go to level 2 or level 3. If you go through this seminar from beginning to end, you'll really get a lot of useful information that you can start using today to speak English better and with more confidence. You've made a very smart decision joining this seminar today, and you're going to understand English better than your friends, better than your colleagues, your classmates, and probably better than your teachers if you stay until the very end and use all of the resources and information that I'm going to give you. Now, let's talk about who this seminar is for. It's not for everyone, and I want to tell you who it is for and who it is not for right now. First of all, this seminar is for anybody who wants to learn how to speak English with anybody from anywhere. If you want to learn English for traveling or for work or to move abroad or study abroad, then this seminar is for you, and you're really going to love what I'm going to share with you. Second of all, a lot of people ask me, Chris, what level of English do I need to have to join your level 2 program? And here's how you can understand if your level is good enough. If you can understand at least 50% of what I am saying right now, then your level is good enough. And the last group of people that this seminar is for is teachers who want to improve their skills as English speakers and English teachers. Hey, I understand that teachers need lessons too. I still learn new things every day, and a good teacher should also be a learner. So if you're one of these people, then you're in the right place and you're really going to love what we're going to do today. And then let me tell you who this seminar is not for. This seminar is not for people who don't have the patience to sit and listen and watch and participate in a seminar for an hour. It's not for them because if they don't have the patience to even do that, then they won't have the patience that they need in order to learn a language. Also, this seminar is not for people who don't want to speak English. I know it probably sounds funny. Why would a person who doesn't want to speak English be at this seminar? Well, sometimes people join seminars and they think that they'll just listen to me speak. They don't want to speak English themselves. They just want to play a game and pretend that they want to learn English. Really, they only want to listen. So this is not for them, because today we're going to be talking about how to speak English and what you need to know to do that. And the last group of people that this seminar is not for is people who don't have manners and people who are impolite. If you want to be an effective English speaker, then you need to understand how to speak with other people in general. That means you need to be respectful, and you can't write negative comments in the chat or say rude words or anything like that. So if you're one of these people, then this seminar is not for you, and you can leave the seminar right now. That's right, you can just exit out of the seminar, close it, and go do something else, because we only want positive people who really want to speak English and who have the ability to listen to information and to learn. Okay, great. So right now you're probably thinking something like, well, this is great and I'm excited for the seminar, but who is this Chris person? So for those of you who don't know who I am, let me quickly tell you who I am. Well, my name is Christopher Huntley, but I also use the name Chris Americos. I'm a professional teacher, teacher trainer, business coach, and entrepreneur from the United States. And I've lived in a lot of different places in my life. I've lived in Germany, Italy, and Russia, but also the United States, where I've lived in a lot of different places too. For example, Ohio, Hawaii, Rhode Island, West Virginia, and Florida. I've started multiple teaching businesses, and that's helped me a lot in my life. I can travel a lot, spend time with my friends and my family when I want, and work when I want. And one of the things I love doing more than anything else is teaching English. It's my passion. I absolutely love it. And I've been teaching for about 10 years and creating resources and lessons and programs for students and teachers. You can find my YouTube channel called English with Chris Americos and see that I have over 500 free video lessons there. I also have a great Facebook group called English with Chris Americos where we post useful resources every day. And I create these resources because I believe that students should have everything they need to really learn English at a high level. When I look online, I always find resources that aren't very good. And there are some teachers out there who they just don't know what they're doing. They're giving people the wrong information, and that makes me sad and upset because I know that students are looking at that information and they're getting confused. So one of the things I've done is started showing teachers and students how they should approach learning and teaching the language, and I want to tell you about that right now. You see, most students and teachers around the world focus on communication only. I agree that communication is very important, but there are other important things that influence how we communicate that we also need to consider. One of those things is relationships. When we first meet a person, we usually use different words or phrases than when we speak with someone who we've known for a long time. It's the difference between formal and informal language usually. So when a teacher and a student meet for the first time, they'll probably say, hello. But when they meet for the 25th time, they'll probably say, hi. That's a very simple example of how relationships influence the words we use to communicate and why it's important for teachers and students to understand that the relationship they develop when learning the language will help them develop their language and social skills. A large percentage of our communication is body language. It's non-verbal signals. That means we don't speak it. We just do it. Language and communication are things that we do. So if we really want to communicate effectively, we should stop focusing only on speaking and start focusing on communication and relationships. A few years ago, I started to understand this more and more, and I was really interested. I wanted to learn as much as I could. That's when I developed a completely new approach to teaching English called the communicative relationship approach. This is something that no one in the world was speaking about because they all thought that just sitting in a room and speaking all day would help students learn. But what I found was that students learned better and faster when we created a relationship. It's not a real relationship. I mean, it's not a romantic relationship or anything like that, and it's not a true friendship either. It's a sample relationship that is based on language learning. It's a relationship that students can use and remember and think about when they meet new people. But I still found that communication and relationship building only were not enough to help all of my students get awesome results. Most of my students got amazing results, but there were a couple students who still didn't seem to have the great results that I wanted them to have. So I went back and looked at my approach again. I studied it for another 2 or 3 years and looked at what was different about my super successful students and what was different about my students whose results were just so-so. And after lots of research and investigation, I found the answer. There was a third, very important component to students' success in learning English, which was the self. The student needed to have a strong sense of self to succeed. They needed to be self-confident, decisive, ready to take risks and make mistakes, open-minded, and they needed to believe in their own ability to succeed. So I combined those 3 things together: communication, relationship building, and sense of self, and I created a totally new approach that no one is talking about and no one else is using to get amazing results for every student I work with. This approach is called the integral approach to learning English. So right now, because you are part of this seminar, you're going to learn things that are completely new and no one else is teaching them. They are more effective than traditional ways that people have been learning and teaching English for the past 100 years, and you're going to learn them right now here with me today. Now, let's get started. The first thing we absolutely must do today is set your language learning goals. If you've never done this before, then it might feel a little strange the first time, and that's okay. In fact, it's good if it feels strange, because that means that you're trying something new and you're making progress. If you always feel comfortable, you'll never make progress. So it's good if you feel a little uncomfortable doing this. To set your goals, you need to have a piece of paper, you need to pick up a pen, and get ready to write. You'll have to listen and then think about what I tell you, and then write information about yourself on your piece of paper. At the top of the paper in front of you, you need to write a few words. You're going to write one word on one line, and then skip a line or two, and write the next one. And then you'll do the same thing with each word that I tell you. Ready? Okay. The first word you need to write is words. That's right. Write the word words at the top of the paper. Okay, next. Write the word rules. Remember to skip a line or two between each word. Okay, after that, write the word speaking. That's an important one. Next, write the word books. And then, the last one, write the word films. Okay, so now you should have those 5 words written on your paper, and what we're going to do is set our goals for each of these categories. First of all, next to where you wrote the word words, you need to write how many words you want to learn in the next 12 months or the next 6 months. I know that 12 months might be a long time for some people, and that's okay. If 12 months is too long, then you can plan for 6 months. So all you need to do is write a number. How many words are you going to learn? Then, write the number of grammar rules that you're going to study in the next 6 or 12 months. Grammar rules are important because they give structure to the language and help connect all of the words that we know. After that, write how often you want to have speaking practice and how many times you'll be able to focus 100% on speaking in the next 6 or 12 months. It might be speaking practice with a native speaker, with a teacher, or maybe just with a friend. Research has shown that speaking the language helps you learn and remember it. You really need as much speaking practice as you can get. The best way to learn English is to practice speaking every day for at least 1 hour. I understand that it can be difficult to find someone to speak with every day, but this is probably the most important thing to focus on when learning the language. You must have speaking practice. Next, write how many books you're going to read in the next 6 or 12 months. They don't have to be hundreds of pages long, and they don't have to be originals, but they must be in English. And lastly, you need to write how many films you're going to watch in English in the next 6 or 12 months. I know that you might not even have enough time to watch entire films, but you should at least be able to find 15 to 30 minutes to watch a TV show. It's important to watch films and TV shows in English because you get to improve your listening skills, you get to learn new vocabulary, hear natural pronunciation in real-life situations, and, most importantly, have fun. Make sure you write down your goals on this piece of paper before moving forward, because setting goals and having a plan will help you learn English better and faster. There was a research study done at Yale University. They interviewed students who were graduating from the university one year and asked them about their goals. They asked if they had any goals. Then they asked if they had specific goals. They wanted to know what their goals were. And then they asked if they had written their goals on paper, where that paper was, and how often they looked at their goals. 20 years later, they interviewed the same people and found that the students who had written their goals on paper achieved more than all of the other students. Learning the language is no different from any other goal that you have. In order to achieve it, you must write down your goals and plan for success. Now, the next thing you need to do is set your goals to a specific time. If they aren't connected to a date and time, then they aren't really goals. We need to know when to do them and when they should be completed. So what I want you to do right now is open your calendar on your phone or on your computer. There should be a program or application that is a calendar and lets you set tasks and reminders. If you don't have one, then you should look online and download one. It must be able to send you reminders. I suggest using Google Calendar. So open your calendar and get ready to write your goals into your calendar. To show you what this looks like, I'm going to give you some suggested goals. Now, these are just an example and you don't have to have the same goals. I just think that these are really good goals, but you can do more or less and you can decide for yourself. So now we have our calendar wide open and we have goals written on the piece of paper in front of us. Next to the word words, I'm going to write 2,000. This is my goal for the next 12 months. Remember, you might have different goals and that's fine. That's okay. You should set your own goals, and my goals that I'm showing you now are just an example. So I wrote 2,000. That's 2,000 words that I want to learn in the next 12 months. I chose the number 2,000 because it's realistic, and it also will give you a great result. If you know 2,000 words, then you'll be able to understand a lot of what people say to you and what people say around you, and you'll be able to speak more and communicate better. Now, a lot of people hear the number 2,000 and they think that that's a really big number. They think it's a lot of words and it's a little shocking because they think that they could never learn that many words. And I agree, the number 2,000 is big and scary. That's why we want to break that number down into smaller units. Let me show you what I mean. If we learn 2,000 new words in 1 year, that means we learn 167 new words per month, and 39 new words per week, and only 6 new words per day. When you think of learning 6 words every day, it seems easy, but when you think of learning 2,000 words every year, it seems difficult. So let's stop thinking about 2,000 words and start thinking about 6 words. But the next question we should ask is, which words should I learn? And the answer is, the most important words. It's easy to find which words are the most important to learn. Just go online and search for top 100 words in English, or top 200 words in English, or top 1,000 words in English, and you'll find a list of very important words. Then you can separate those words into groups of 6 or 39 or 167, and you can start learning them. You should put your list of words for the day or week or month in your kitchen so you can look at them when you're eating. You should put them in your car so you can think about them when you're driving. Put them everywhere so you always have a reason to think about them and review them. Next, I'm going to write the number 52 next to the word rules. That means you study 4 grammar lessons and grammar rules every month and only 1 every week. So if you're already spending time learning new words every day, then you choose 1 day a week to spend a little more time learning grammar too. You'll need to read the grammar rule, understand it, do exercises to review it, and practice it. To practice it, all you'll need to do is search online for the name of the grammar topic, for example, present perfect, and then write the word activities or exercises. This will give you lots of websites that will check your answers automatically, so you'll know if you're right or wrong, and if you really understand it or not. The next question is, how many times should you have speaking practice? And the best answer here is every day. The more practice you have, the better. You can never have too much practice, but I understand that you might not be able to practice speaking every day. So I'm going to write the number 52 next to the word speaking. That means you need to have speaking practice just 1 time a week. Remember that I recommend having speaking practice every day for an hour, but for our example here, I'm writing 52. And you need to understand that speaking practice does not have to be with a native speaker. It could be with a friend, or a colleague, or a family member too. The most important part of speaking practice is the speaking part. You must speak. But a lot of people have problems finding a speaking partner. They tell me that they can't find anyone to speak with. And that's why I've created a special resource that will help you get speaking practice every day and will help you find speaking partners. And I'll tell you more about that later in the seminar. Next, let's talk about books. Here next to the word books, I'm going to write the number 20. That's how many books I think you should read each year. If you read more, that's great too. They don't have to be long novels and they don't have to be originals. You can read children's books just to get started reading in English, or magazines, or something else that interests you. The main idea is that you need to read something from beginning to end, and you need to actively read. Now, what does that mean? Well, active reading means that you don't just read the words in the book and then forget about them. No, no, no. You need to have a pen and paper with you when you read. When you find a word or phrase that you don't know or don't understand, you need to write it down and look it up in the dictionary or translator and learn what it means in that context. When you're choosing a book to read, it's important to choose simple books or simple literature. You should be able to understand at least 80 to 90% of the words and the content of the books that you're reading. If you understand less than that, then it won't be interesting and you're going to have a very difficult time finishing it. So when you're looking for a book to read, you should open the book to a random page and see how many words you know and how many words you don't know on that page. If you set your goal to read 20 books a year, then you only have to read 1.5 books per month, which is less than 1 book per week. There are special types of books called graded readers that will be easier for you to read, and they'll help you learn important vocabulary too. So when you're looking for books to read, start with graded readers. The last goal for us to talk about is films. Next to the word films, I'm going to write the number 30. You can probably watch more than 30 films in the next 12 months, and they don't have to be films. Like I said, you can watch TV shows too. But just like with books, you need to not just watch, but actively watch. So that means you need to have a pen and paper with you when you watch, and write down words and phrases, and then learn what they mean in that context. The reason we need to watch and read with a pen and paper is because we're not just doing these activities for fun. They might be fun too, and it's great if you have fun while you're learning, but you need to approach watching films and reading books as an English lesson. So bring your pen and paper and get ready to study when you turn on films or TV shows. If you watch 30 films per year, that's 2.5 films per month, and that's less than 1 film per week. Great. Now that you have your goals written on the paper in front of you and you've opened up your calendar on your phone or on your computer, you need to start writing your goals into your calendar. So first, let's start with words. We want to learn 6 words every day. So I'm going to put a reminder in my phone for every morning. I think 6 new words is only going to take me about 10 minutes. I usually wake up at 5 a.m. and take a shower, so I'm going to put my reminder for 5 a.m. If I learn 6 new words before I get in the shower, then I can spend my time in the shower thinking about those words and practicing them in my head. I can try to create sentences with those words and practice pronouncing them too. Or maybe you aren't a morning person. You could set a reminder to learn 6 new words before you leave your house and go to work. Then, when you're on the bus or in your car, you can repeat them, you can review them, you can practice them. And we want to do that every day, even at the weekend. Next is grammar. I'm going to choose 1 day a week to learn a new grammar rule and practice it. I think learning a new grammar rule is going to take me about 30 minutes. I like to get difficult tasks done early in the week, so I'm going to put this one on Monday and set a reminder for every Monday for the next year. I'm usually really busy on weekdays, so the only time I really have is in the evening after work, and that's when I'll study grammar. After that, I need to plan my speaking practice. This one's difficult because it depends on other people. I need to have a speaking partner and I need to plan the days and times with them. Or you could do it a much easier way and join a regular speaking club or international speaking practice group. I'll tell you more about that a little later. Like I said, it's best to practice speaking every day because that will take the words and knowledge that you learn in your own time and make them active. If you don't activate your knowledge, then you'll forget it really fast. So for now, we can't put a date or time in our calendar, and instead we're going to put a big task in the calendar for today after the seminar is finished and write, find speaking partners for daily speaking practice. Great. Next, we need to add reminders about books and films. In my opinion, the evening is the best time to read books. It's a better way to relax than just surfing the internet and looking at funny pictures of cats, right? What you want to do is you want to see how many pages are in the book that you're going to read and divide that number by the number of days it will take you to finish it. So if we need to read 1.5 books every month, then we can say that we have about 18 days to read one book. If our book is 100 pages long, then we have to read 5.5 pages every day. So in my calendar, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes every evening to read 5.5 pages. You might read faster or slower, but remember that you aren't just reading. You're also taking notes and learning new words and phrases. And we want to do the same thing with films. We usually watch films from the beginning to the end, so we need to find a day when we can dedicate an hour or 2 hours to watching the whole film. For me, I'm too busy during the week to do this, so it has to be at the weekend. We said that our goal was to watch 2.5 films per month, so I'm going to put a reminder in my calendar for every Saturday morning. You might be thinking, but Chris, that's 4 films. You're right, that is 4 films per month. But what we really need to do is understand the film, so we might have to watch the same film 2 times or even more times. You'll probably enjoy the film more the second time, after you've learned new words and phrases. We need to look at how long the film is and put that in our calendar. So now you should have your goals written on that piece of paper in front of you. You should have your goals in your calendar with reminders. And there's still one more thing that you need to do. You see, if you just wake up and try to complete your goals as they are now, you'll fail because you haven't prepared anything. Which words are you going to learn? Which grammar rules are you going to study? Who are you going to speak with? Which books are you going to read? Which films are you going to watch? If you make those decisions every day and every time you get a reminder on your phone, then you'll waste all of your time planning and you won't spend that time studying. You need to do the planning first. So let's do that now. We've already talked about how you can find the top 100 or 200 or even 1,000 words in English, right? All you need to do is search on Google. So you need to print that list of words out and then separate it into groups of 6 words. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that the words are not simple words that you already know. For example, words like if or but or in. If you understand what I'm saying right now, then you probably know those words already. So you might need to start from the end of the list of most popular words. Another option is searching for lists of words about a special topic, for example, medical English or legal English or other professional spheres. You want to plan your words for the whole month so that you don't have to spend time planning every day again and again. And then next month, you'll do the same thing. So you need to go back to your calendar right now and schedule a planning day. On your planning day, you're going to plan which new words you're going to learn that month, which grammar rules, when you're going to have speaking practice, which books you'll read, and which films you'll watch that month. You'll probably need about 60 minutes the first time you do it, and then you'll need 30 minutes every month after that. I think the best day to schedule this for is the last day or the next to last day of the month before. So if you're planning for September, then you would plan and make your calendar and set your goals on the last day or next to last day of August. That's how you're going to plan everything. Now you understand how to find the words you need to learn. Grammar rules are going to be the same, really. You need to go to an English textbook or English website that teaches English and find the different grammar topics. Start from your current level. So start with stuff that you know a little bit about, but you haven't mastered yet. Start with those topics and then just follow the book you're using. I recommend New English File. I love that textbook and I use it with all of my students, but you can choose any textbook really. After that, speaking practice. We said that you need to find speaking partners and try to find a club or group where you can have regular speaking practice. Everyday practice is really the best way to start speaking and learn the language. Then, we need to choose the books and films that we're going to use to learn English. This is really easy, and I suggest finding children's books and films first. This is going to help you because you're not going to be so interested in the story or the action of the film or book, but instead, you'll be focused on learning new words and phrases. So during your planning day, you're going to decide which words, which grammar topics, which books, and which films to study. And you're going to make plans for speaking practice. Now we're going to talk about some problems that people have when they try to learn English. What you need to understand about planning and setting goals when learning English is that if English is not part of your life, then it's just a game or a hobby. I'm sure you have hobbies. Maybe you listen to music or you play tennis. Are you a professional tennis player? If it's just your hobby, then you're not a professional. Hobbies are things that we do sometimes. They're things that we might like a little bit, but they aren't important enough for us to spend a lot of time doing them regularly. I mean, when are you going to use tennis in your real life? Only if you go to a tennis court and play tennis. But English is different. If you want to be great at English and if you want to speak fluently, then you have to make English part of your real everyday life. You need to find activities that you already do and start associating them with English. Maybe you spend a lot of time cooking. You could write your cooking instructions in English. You could make a rule in your life that every time you cook, you study English or watch an English TV show. Maybe you are a business person and don't have a lot of free time. Well, when you're driving to work, you could be studying English. You need to find real activities that you already do in your life and add English to them. If you don't make English part of your life, then it's just a game or a hobby. For many people, English is a game. They think it's fun to translate words and remember that this English word means this in their language, and another English word means that in their language. They aren't serious about really knowing and using English in their life. They use it when they travel so they can buy food, or so they can add an English word in their speech when they're speaking their first language and make jokes. It's a game for them. It's a game because it isn't a serious part of their life. So if you want to learn English seriously and speak fluently, then you need to make it part of your life too. Another problem I see a lot of students have is that they don't really like learning English. In fact, some of them just don't like learning anything. They hate the process of going to school, reading books, discussing things with other people, learning from a teacher. They just hate learning in general. And that means they'll never be great English speakers. Because you cannot become a great English speaker if you hate learning English. You must love learning English. In fact, you must love learning in general. Motivation is the most important element to being successful at learning anything. If you have motivation, you will find a reason and a time and a place to study. If you don't have motivation, then you'll find every reason not to study. It's that simple. So one of the major skills that you need to teach yourself is loving the process of learning. You must learn to love the process of learning if you want to be successful. Another problem that a lot of people have when they try to learn English is that they don't really understand what it means to be fluent in English. Everybody uses this word fluent. Why do you need to be fluent? Why not just be good at English or great at English or excellent or fantastic or amazing? Why fluent? Well, this word comes from Latin and it means to flow, like how water moves. It flows. When something flows, it's smooth, it's beautiful, it's easy, it feels right. And when your English flows, it sounds right to other people. But the problem is that most people don't even understand what it really means to be fluent. They try to be fluent, but they don't know what it means. And if they don't know what it means, then how will they ever know that they are fluent or are not fluent? How can you achieve a goal that you don't have? You can't. That's the answer. You can't. So let's make sure that you know what it means to be fluent in English and how you can achieve that. Almost every student who comes to me and says that they want to study with me says the same thing. They say, I want to speak English fluently. And I always ask them, well, what does fluent mean to you? And they can't answer because they don't know what it really means. So one of the most important things that you can learn is what it really means to be fluent in a language. And I'm going to use a story to explain this to you. This is a story about two real people that I met. One of them was named Pasha, and the other was named Dennis. Both of them were from the same city. They had both studied English for a few years and had lived in the United States for a few months. They were about the same age. Dennis had studied academic English. He knew grammar. He knew lots of complicated words. He knew the rules of the language. He probably knew about 5,000 words. That's a lot of words. Native English speakers who are finishing school or who are at university usually know about 5,000 words. And Dennis was not a native speaker, but he knew 5,000 words. The problem with Dennis was that he didn't sound natural. When he spoke, It was like reading an English textbook. He spoke like a book, and he sounded like a robot. It was strange. When he spoke with people, native English speakers, they gave him strange looks because he was too formal and he didn't use any slang. And that was because Dennis only studied English at school and university and from books. Dennis never had speaking practice with real people. On the other hand, Pasha only knew 500 words. He was terrible at grammar and always made mistakes. He knew some slang and used it in the wrong situations sometimes. He didn't know formal or academic language. But the one thing that was really different about Pasha was that he didn't care about his mistakes. He could speak and speak and speak. He made mistakes in every sentence. He had a huge accent and he didn't even try to hide it. But because he wasn't afraid to speak and speak and speak, native English speakers liked speaking with him more. Because he wasn't so formal and didn't sound like a book or a robot, people wanted to speak with him. He had something that Dennis didn't have. Pasha had flow. One of the most important things you can learn about studying languages is that fluency and being fluent is not about grammar and it's not about vocabulary. It's not about how many words you know and how many rules you can remember. What it's really about is flow. Conversations have flow. Speeches have flow. Books and films have flow. The movement of conversations and communication between people is more important than choosing the right word or rule to use. So you need to decide who you want to be. Do you want to be the person who knows lots of rules and words, but who seems strange and unnatural to everyone? Or do you want to be the person who makes mistakes sometimes and chooses the wrong word sometimes, but who seems natural and fun to everyone? When people hear Dennis speak, they don't think he understands the culture of the language and how people should use the language to communicate with each other. They hear him speak, and they aren't interested to continue the conversation. When people hear Pasha speak, they say that he isn't a native speaker, but he speaks English. He understands how to use the language to communicate what he wants, and how to hold a conversation with native speakers. Pasha only knows 500 words and doesn't know grammar, but he is more fluent than Dennis, who knows 5,000 words and knows grammar. And this brings us back to the integral approach that I told you about earlier. Nobody is teaching students how to learn English the right way. Nobody really understands what it requires. They just see that some students are super successful and that some students are so-so, and that some students completely fail, and they think, well, some people just aren't good at languages. And that's not true at all. Right now, I'm going to ask you one question that should explain what I'm talking about and help you really understand why learning English and becoming fluent in English is a process that first starts with you. It's not about your teacher. It's not about your school or your university. It's not about your family. It's not about your country or where you were born or your nationality. It's not because you're good at languages or bad at languages. This one question will explain what stops so many people from being fluent in English and prove to you that it all starts with you. The sense of self is the most important aspect of learning English, and nobody is teaching you anything about it, but I'm going to teach it to you right now. I've done this with hundreds, if not thousands of my students, and now it's your turn. So first, I have a question for you. Here it is. Are you an English speaker? Probably your answer is no. If you were an English speaker, you probably would not be watching this seminar about how to learn English and how to speak English fluently. You probably said no because you're not from an English-speaking country. You probably said no because all of your life people compared your first language to English and told you how they're so different. But I'm here to tell you that none of that is true. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what language is your first language. It doesn't matter what your teachers said because they were wrong. In fact, what language am I speaking right now? French? No. German? No. Russian? No. Chinese? No. I'm speaking English. You're listening to me speak English and you understand me. I think you understand me if you're still watching. So you can understand English. That makes you an English listener, but not an English speaker. So what makes you an English speaker? Here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. Think about this question long and hard and really understand the meaning of this question. Here it is. And in fact, I'm going to flip the camera around and show my face. Okay, so here's the question that you need to ask yourself right now. Think about this question long and hard and really try to understand why I'm asking it and what it really means. If you don't believe that you are an English speaker, then why would anyone else believe that you are an English speaker? Okay? Does that make sense? Let me repeat that for you. If you do not believe that you are an English speaker, then why would anyone else believe that you are an English speaker? It's a good question, right? And the answer is that they won't. They won't believe that you're an English speaker. Let me show you why. I'm going to flip the camera again, okay? I mean, imagine if you came up to someone and you asked them, "Are you a doctor?" And they answered, "No." What would you think? You would think they aren't a doctor. Being fluent in English is about believing in yourself first. If someone asks you, "Are you an English speaker?" and you answer, "No," well, of course, they're going to think that you don't speak English. And if you come up to someone and you don't truly believe that you are an English speaker, then they're going to feel it. They're going to know that you don't believe it. They're going to see it in your eyes, and they're going to think that you don't know English. When you go up to them and in your mind you're thinking in a different language and telling yourself that you're not sure about what you're going to say in English, the person you speak to will know that. So the first thing you need to do in order to become an English speaker is believe that you are an English speaker yourself. We've already decided that you are an English listener because you understand what I'm saying and you're still here. So what does it take for you to become an English speaker? All you need to do is speak. That's it. Just open your mouth and say the words. Right now, while you're listening to this seminar, I want you to speak to yourself. That's right. People around you might think that you're crazy, but this is how it all starts. You need to say right now, "I am an English speaker. I speak English." Say it again. "I am an English speaker. I speak English." Again, "I am an English speaker. I speak English." Keep saying it until you believe it. When you take a shower, say it 10 times. When you drive to work, say it 10 more times. When you wake up in the morning, say it 20 times. Remember, if you don't believe that you are an English speaker, then nobody else will believe it either. It all starts with you. In fact, it doesn't matter how many words you know. It doesn't matter which grammar rules you know either. It doesn't matter if you have an accent or not. It doesn't matter. Well, nothing really matters. The only thing that matters is if you can open your mouth and make sounds that are words in English. If you can do that, then you're an English speaker. There's one mistake that you can make that will stop you from being an English speaker and becoming fluent in English and improving your English speaking skills. There's only one mistake. You don't need to worry about grammar rules and you don't need to know thousands of words. There's only one mistake that you truly need to avoid. Here is a rule to remember so that you don't make that mistake. The rule is, the only mistake is not speaking. I'll repeat it. The only mistake is not speaking. That means if you don't speak and don't practice speaking and don't open your mouth and make English language sounds, then you're making a mistake. It also means that if you say the wrong word or use the wrong grammar form or write the wrong letter or if you have an accent, it's not a mistake. Those are not mistakes. When you're learning English, those are not mistakes because each of those things is a chance for you to learn more and grow more. Those things help you develop your skills. The only mistake is not speaking. When you have the chance to speak and you don't speak, you just lost an opportunity. When someone tries to talk to you and you ignore them because you're afraid to say the wrong thing or afraid that they won't understand you or that they're going to know that English isn't your first language, that's a mistake. When you don't speak, that's a mistake. There are no other mistakes when you're learning English. Only that one. That's why you need speaking practice every day. Even if you don't speak correctly, you can get a job, study at a university abroad, meet people, have fun, and live life. If you don't speak when you should, then you'll never make connections with people. You'll never get the job you want. You'll never go to the school or university that you want, and you'll just miss out on a lot of things in life. There's only one mistake when you're learning English, so don't make it. Make a decision right now that you're going to get speaking practice every day, and you are not going to miss out on opportunities to have the life that you want. Now, let's talk about another big problem that a lot of English language learners have. A lot of people who are studying English come to me and say, Chris, I want to lose my accent, or Chris, I want to speak like a native speaker. And at first, I was surprised when people said this to me. Now I understand that most people in the world think like this, and teachers everywhere have been teaching students that they need to lose or reduce their accent, and they need to perfect their pronunciation in such a way that will sound like a native speaker. Sounding like a native speaker is really important for a lot of people, but they don't understand what it means to sound like a native speaker. Just like almost everyone is confused about what it means to be fluent in English, they're also confused about what an accent is and how to improve their pronunciation. You see, the truth is that everyone has an accent. I have an accent, you have an accent. I've never met you before and I've never heard you speak, but I know you have an accent because every person has an accent. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just an accent. It's life. Accents are just sounds that people usually use in the place that you're from. That's it. Nothing more. In fact, if a family from one place moves to another place and then raises a child there, the child will usually have the same accent as the family at home. So having an accent is not bad and it's not good. It's just an accent. Everyone has one. People from New York have a New York accent. People from London have a London accent. Every place or region has some kind of accent, and sometimes special groups of people or subculture groups also have special accents. So when students come to me and tell me, Chris, I want to speak like a native speaker, I say, okay, which native speaker? They're usually confused and they say, an English speaker like you. And I have to remind them that there are lots of native speakers who speak differently. This is why we have to set goals first. If you want to move to Australia and get a job there, then you need to learn a different accent and different phrases than someone who wants to study at a university in London. If you want to work in South Africa for a year, then you need to learn a different accent and different phrases than someone who wants to immigrate to the United States. So be more specific. It's a really big problem that a lot of students have. They don't set specific goals. They say, I want to speak like a native speaker, but they don't really understand what that means. After you decide which type of native speaker you want to sound like, you need to ask yourself a very important question. What would an English speaker do? You should ask yourself this question when you're doing usual things throughout your day and in your life. Even when you aren't studying English, ask yourself this question. If you need to find some information online, ask, what would an English speaker do? Well, English speakers use English resources like Google to search for information. If there's a different website that's more popular in your country, then you need to start using Google and start thinking about what words you can use to search for and find the information that you need. If you don't know what a word means, ask, what would an English speaker do? Well, English speakers feel like they should know their own language, so when they come across a word that they don't know, they look the word up in the dictionary. It still shocks me how students who are studying English and who don't believe that they are an English speaker don't look up new words when they hear them. Instead, they just tell themselves, well, I'm not an English speaker, so of course I don't know that word. That's crazy. When you hear or read a new word, you need to find out what it means. And even more than that, you need to love the process of finding out what it means. Another thing that happens a lot is that students come to me and tell me they want to lose their accent or reduce their accent. They're always surprised by my answer. You'll probably be surprised too, but this is the truth. You can never lose your accent. That's right, it's never going to happen. You can try and try and try for years and years, but you won't get rid of your accent. And you don't need to. What you need to focus on is adding a new accent, not getting rid of your old accent. You see, an accent is just like a collection of sounds, and you're never going to forget how to make those sounds. I don't think you want to forget how to make those sounds. Those are the sounds of your first language. Then you wouldn't be able to speak to your family and friends. Instead, you want to add more sounds and be able to speak to more people. So there's no reason to reduce or lose your accent. Focus on gaining a new accent. When people try to improve their pronunciation, they also don't usually go about it the right way. You see, one of the most important aspects of pronunciation is listening. That's right. If someone is really good at listening, they can develop great pronunciation because they can hear the different sounds that native speakers make. They train their ears to hear new sounds that are different from the sounds in their first language, and they try to understand which sounds are in different words. Before you can make those sounds yourself, you need to be able to hear them and understand how they're different from the sounds that you already know. If you try to speak a new language with your old sounds, then your pronunciation will be terrible. That's what most people think of when they say, I want to lose my accent. They really mean that they want to stop using the sounds of their first language or of another language in the new language that they're learning. So if you think that you have a terrible accent in English, then that means you need to learn the sounds of English better, especially the sounds that are different from your first language. You need to stop using your first language sounds in your English speech. Now, I understand, it sounds easy when I say it, but it isn't easy to just stop using the sounds that you've been using all your life, right? That's why you need speaking practice every day. If you have speaking practice every day, and especially if you can practice with native speakers every day, then you'll be able to hear the differences in pronunciation and in sounds. You also need to listen to how sounds change in different words and different combinations of words. Most words, letters, phrases, and combinations of words have more than one sound. For example, the word can has a strong pronunciation and a weak pronunciation. In the sentence, I do what I can, the word can has strong pronunciation, which means that we pronounce it like can. You probably thought that's the only way to pronounce it, but in the sentence, I can do what I want, the word can has weak pronunciation and sounds like can. Listen again. I can do what I want. We know when to use the strong pronunciation and when to use the weak pronunciation of this word by where the stress in the sentence is. If the word can is stressed, then it has strong pronunciation. If it's unstressed, then it has weak pronunciation. Most people don't pay attention to these small differences in sounds and pronunciation, and most teachers never teach students about them, but this is another aspect of the language that's very important. Okay, now we've talked about a lot of different ways for you to improve your English, and I hope that you're writing everything down because there's a lot of information in this seminar today, and we aren't finished yet. In fact, right now we're going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes that you're making and that your teachers aren't telling you about. How do I know that you're making these mistakes? Well, I've taught thousands of students from around the world, and I know that every student makes these mistakes. I'm not talking about grammar mistakes or pronunciation mistakes. I'm talking about learning mistakes. Mistakes in the process of learning English. These mistakes stop you from learning English properly. They stop you from learning English quickly, and they stop you from learning English correctly and with confidence. The first one is easy. It's a rule, and that rule is that exact translations do not exist. Every student in the world who tries to learn a language opens up their dictionary or translator and starts translating words. They say, this word means this in my language, and this word means this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't translate. I actually think it's good to translate, and it helps you learn the language. But the big mistake that people make is that when they translate things, like when they translate words or phrases, they think that the translation is going to work 100% of the time. They think in 100% of the situations in the new language that they're learning, the word that they just translated will work exactly the same as in their first language. And that's never true. Many words have second meanings or third meanings or sometimes even 10 or 20 other meanings, If you always walk around thinking that one word in English means exactly one word in your language, then you'll always be confused. When we learn a new word, we need to understand that we're learning one meaning of many meanings. We need to be open to learning other meanings of the same words that we've already learned. We cannot just learn a word and then tell ourselves that, hey, we've already learned it, so it always means what we've learned that it means. That's not how words and languages work. There might be special phrases or idioms that use a word differently. In different contexts, the same word can have different meanings. It's important to understand that there are never exact translations because when we translate words, we're using different languages. Here's what most people think. They think that we have a word, for example, let's use the word girl. If we simply translate this word into Spanish, then we get several words. Niña, muchacha, chica. Now, Spanish and English use the same basic alphabet, the Latin alphabet, so it's sometimes difficult to remember that these are two different languages. Let's just look at that word again. Let's use muchacha and girl. It should be simple to see that these are two different words. If we translate girl to Russian, it's девочка or девушка. Russian uses a different alphabet. It uses the Cyrillic alphabet. Here it's easy to see that these two words are different and two different languages. But what most people who are learning English forget is that these words have different meanings too. Even though the translation might tell us that these Spanish and Russian words mean girl in English, we must be open to understanding them differently. We must remember that words can have many meanings in different contexts and situations. We must remember that there are no exact translations. In Spanish, the word niña is usually about a little girl or a young girl. But in some Spanish-speaking countries, such as Mexico, this word might be used like the English word baby to say something kind or sweet to a wife or girlfriend. In different Spanish-speaking countries, these words might have different meanings. In some places, the word muchacha might mean a girl who works in a specific type of job, and it might be rude or offensive to say this to girls who don't work in that job. We can see the same differences in meaning with the Russian words that are usually translated as girl. The first one, девочка, means a little girl or young girl, similar to niña in Spanish. But it's not usually used to say something kind or sweet to a wife or a girlfriend. The other word, девушка, can also be used to mean waitress in a cafe or a restaurant. If you want to get the waitress's attention in a Russian cafe, you can just say, девушка, and she'll come to your table. Now, it would be very rude to say, girl, to get the waitress's attention in an English cafe. So the translation is the same, but the meaning is different. Also, in Russian, the word девушка is used about females starting in their teenage years up to their 30s or even later. And in English, the word girl is usually used for females under 18 or in their late teens and early 20s. But females in their early and mid-20s usually prefer woman. In Russian, the word woman translates as женщина, which would be very rude to say to someone in their early or mid-20s. So it's important to understand that girl, muchacha, and девушка are not the same word and do not have the same meaning. And that is part of the second big mistake that every student makes that stops them from learning English correctly, which is focusing on learning what and how instead of learning when and why. You see, most people who learn English or any other language focus on what to say and how to say it. In other words, they focus on vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. What they forget to study is when they should say those words and phrases and why they should say them. They forget to study context and purpose. Without context and purpose, it's really difficult to learn and understand and know a language well. Without context, it's difficult to understand what the phrase pick up means. When you learn context, you understand that probably this phrase is about answering the phone. Without purpose, it's difficult to understand why people say things. Without purpose, it's difficult to understand why someone would say the phrase, "It's a piece of cake." When you learn purpose, you understand that probably this phrase means that something is very easy to do. When you focus on studying words separate from their context and purpose, you're going to get very confused. You'll probably think that people who speak English are very strange because the phrases that they say aren't connected to what's happening around you. You won't understand them. and they probably won't understand you either. So when you learn new English words, new English grammar, phrases, and other stuff in English, you need to learn when and why to say things, not only what to say and how to say it. Sure, learning what to say and how to say it is also important, but don't forget about learning context and purpose. A great teacher of English should teach you all of those things. They should teach you what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and why to say it. And then you have to practice it. When you use it in speech, and when you have speaking practice with real people, you'll understand how this works. And that brings us to the third big mistake that every student makes. I would say it's a huge mistake. It's a giant mistake, really, and nobody has ever told you this before, I'm sure. It's really surprising to me that nobody is telling students who are studying English that they need to do this. This mistake stops you from learning fast. If you correct this mistake right now, then you're going to learn twice as fast. So, are you ready? Here is the mistake that you're making. You aren't teaching anybody. That's right. Yes, you heard me correctly. You aren't teaching anybody. I know you're thinking, but Chris, you are the teacher. You should teach us. We shouldn't teach people. We don't even know English yet. But listen to me very carefully right now, because this might be the most important advice anyone has ever given you about learning English. The best way to remember information is to teach it. The best way to understand information on a deep level is to teach it. The best way to make information a part of you so that you never forget it and you can always go back and use that information is to teach it. It's not important that you're still studying English. If you know one word of English, you can teach someone who knows 0 words. If you know 2 words, you can teach someone who knows 1 word. It's not important how many words you know or how much grammar you know or how good your pronunciation is. You need to find someone to teach. English is not something that you do alone. It's not something you learn by yourself and speak to yourself. Only crazy people do that. You need to speak it with other people, and if you're lucky enough to know English better than other people, you should share it with other people. You need to teach people. Another reason you need to teach people is because it gives you a routine and it gives you a strong reason to learn more, to keep improving, and to study English long term. So here's what you need to do. You need to think of 3 people who you think you could help learn English. Write their names down on the piece of paper in front of you. And what you should do next is contact them and say that you want to help them learn English. Maybe you're going to send them a new word every day, or maybe once a week you're going to meet and practice speaking and you can teach them some new phrases. Whatever your plan is, you need to tell those 3 people your plan. You need to tell them because we want them to contact you if you forget. If you tell someone that you're going to help them learn English and that you're going to send them a new word every day and then you forget to send them a new word, well, that person is going to contact you and say, hey, you didn't send me a word today. And that's going to help you keep going and keep learning because now you're responsible to someone else, not just yourself. That's really great motivation. Go start teaching people English right now. Okay, if you're still here on the seminar with me and you've stayed this long, then I know that you have what it takes to really succeed at learning English and becoming a great English speaker. A lot of people don't have the desire or motivation or patience to do something for an hour or more and to focus on things that they really want. You do. So now I'm going to tell you about the absolute best resource online right now for learning spoken English, getting speaking practice, and finding speaking partners. There's lots of resources available online that are completely free, and there are some great paid resources too that are not very expensive. You might already know about some of these resources, but that's okay because they're still really useful and it's good to use them with the strategies that I've given you in this seminar today. At the end of this seminar, I'm going to give you some free resources that I've made for you, so make sure you stay until the very end to get those free downloads. You'll be happy that you did. First, we talked about learning words, and I gave you an example of learning 6 words every day so that you can learn 2,000 words in 1 year. In fact, if you learn 2,000 words, then you'll know 80 to 90% of all of the vocabulary used in spoken English. 80 to 90%. That's amazing. Most people use the same words in almost all situations in life. When they're speaking with their friends, family, colleagues, and anybody else, they use the same words. So if you want to understand and speak English well, you should start learning 6 new words every day. And if you learn 3,000 words, then you'll understand 95% of spoken English. To help you do this, I've created a resource for you that you can download. It's a list of the top 3,000 words in English. I know that some of you will think that 2,000 isn't enough, so that's why I decided to create a list of 3,000 words. These are the top 3,000 words in English, so they're really used by native speakers and by other English speakers too. These are the words that you need to know. Next, we talked about grammar rules and grammar topics, and I suggested that you learn 1 grammar topic each week, and if you do that, then you'll learn 52 topics in 1 year. I've made a list of 52 grammar topics that you can download, and if you do that, then you'll learn 52 topics in 1 year. I've made a list of 52 grammar topics that you can download. We also talked about books and films, and I suggested that you read 20 books and watch 30 films in the next 12 months. And we talked about setting your goals and putting them in your calendar so that you can definitely reach your goals and learn English. All of these resources are available to download at the end of this seminar. But there's one other skill, the most important skill that I haven't mentioned yet: speaking. I've created the best resource for learning spoken English, finding speaking partners, and becoming an English speaker that exists right now on the internet. Thousands of students and teachers have seen this resource, and they've told me that there's nothing else like it anywhere in the world. I absolutely understand, and I agree with them. When I created this resource, I wanted to make it available to students around the world so they could get speaking practice any time of the day and do it from their phone or from their computer. I wanted to bring teachers and students together and make it affordable for students from anywhere to join, even students from very poor countries and with very little money. Most teachers charge money for their teaching services. I understand that. I'm a teacher too, and I charge money for my teaching services too, but there are a lot of students who can't afford to take lessons. So I made it my mission to solve this problem and to help students everywhere get the speaking practice that they need without charging a lot of money. When I first created this resource, people didn't really understand how I was doing it. They said, "Chris, why are you doing this? You could ask for a lot of money and people would pay it because this is really, really good." But that's not my mission. My mission is to give everyone the opportunity to have speaking practice every day. So I created this amazing resource where English learners can practice speaking every day with professional native speaking teachers. They can meet other students from around the world and find speaking partners who have the same goals as them. I know that sometimes it's difficult for them to find a speaking partner from their own country because they both speak the same language and it feels strange to speak to them in English. That's why they need a speaking partner from a different country. Someone from a country where people don't speak their language. So I created this resource where they can find a speaking partner from a different country or from lots of countries around the world. They can also use this resource to learn new vocabulary and grammar and then discuss what they've learned in a student chat. The student chat is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they can ask questions or make suggestions there anytime they want. This student chat is really a community where students from around the world can share their opinions and practice writing skills too. And this resource is called Everyday English. Every day there are speaking lessons that students can join with professional native speaking teachers and other students from around the world. Each lesson takes place at a different time and each lesson is about a different topic. This resource is different from other resources because the students and teachers can all see and hear each other. We use a special platform on our website that lets students and teachers from around the world speak to each other at the same time and practice their English. Teachers can hear what students say and correct their mistakes in their pronunciation. Students can also suggest lesson topics and choose what they study. But probably the best part of this resource is recorded lessons. Lessons are recorded and students can go back and watch them. So if a student can't study every day, they can go back and watch recorded lessons later. We have thousands of lessons already recorded for students to watch when they aren't participating in our live lessons. So now you can understand why this is such a great resource. It's the best resource on the internet right now for learning how to speak English. You can learn reading, writing, listening, and other skills online on YouTube and on other websites, but there's no other resource for learning speaking. This is the best way to learn speaking. Most of the students who have joined our Everyday English program have also told us that this is the fastest way to improve their speaking. A lot of students couldn't speak before they joined. They didn't have confidence. They didn't know a lot of words. They thought that people would laugh at them or people just wouldn't understand them. But they decided to try this program because they really wanted to learn how to speak. They studied English at school or university, but they couldn't speak. And those same students send me messages all the time saying, "Thank you so much, Chris, for creating Everyday English. I can speak English now, and I feel confident enough to speak to anyone in the world." And that makes me feel really, really good. I'm so happy and so proud that students everywhere can use my Everyday English program to improve their speaking and become part of the international community. Some of my students have gone on to enter universities in the UK or the US. Some of my students have got jobs in international companies and improved their salary and income. Some of them have moved to Australia or Canada. The results my students have are amazing, and there is no other program that helps students get these kinds of results in just 1 month. That's right. My students get results in 1 month. Just 1 month. Could you imagine that you could speak English better than you do right now and with a lot more confidence? Plus, you could have thousands of recorded lessons that you can watch anytime. Plus, you could have speaking partners from different countries around the world. Plus, you could have a supportive community that helps you stay focused on learning English and studying every day. Plus, you could have live lessons every day with professional teachers from English-speaking countries. Plus, you could have a special student chat where you can discuss what you've learned any time of the day or the night. And if you have all of those resources, in just 1 month, you'll definitely be able to speak English at a higher level. That's why everybody says that this Everyday English program is the best resource for speaking practice in the world. And I agree with them. There's nothing else like this anywhere in the world. This is a one-of-a-kind program. So at the beginning of this seminar, I told you that this seminar is level 1. This is just the beginning of what I'm going to teach you. With this level 1 seminar, we set your goals. We talked about what it means to speak fluently. We talked about how to have perfect pronunciation. We talked about the 3 biggest mistakes that students make when they try to learn and speak English. I told you about the free resources that I'm going to give you at the end of this seminar and the resources that you already have access to. Right? I told you to go over to Facebook and join my group called English with Chris Americos, where I post about English every day. Go to my Instagram called Chris Americos, where you can get lots of motivation to learn and study. And go to my YouTube channel called English with Chris Americos, where I have over 500 video lessons that you can watch for free. And very soon I'm going to tell you how to get all of the free downloads that I've created for you with this seminar. And we also talked about the best resource on the internet right now, which students say is the best resource in the world right now for learning how to speak English fluently and with confidence. It's absolutely the best, and there's nothing else like this Everyday English program in the whole world. You really got a lot of information here today, and I'm going to tell you how you can completely change your life and take your English to the next level and start speaking English right now and reach your goals in just 1 month. Right now, it's time to make a decision. You have 3 choices. The first option is to just listen to me talk on this seminar today and then do nothing. That's right. That's your first choice. You can listen to all of this great information that has helped thousands of students around the world, and you can decide to do nothing. You can just sit there, and when the seminar is finished, you can just forget everything and never learn English. That's your choice. It's a bad choice, but it's your choice. And I'm sure that some people will do that. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is different. You can take all of the useful things that I've given you today, and you can use them, and you can try to learn English yourself, without my help after this seminar. I mean, this is level 1, and maybe you think level 1 is enough for you, and you just want to keep learning English without my help, and that's your choice. But if you haven't learned English yet, then why would it work this time? What's different now? Who's going to motivate you to learn? Who's going to speak with you every day? How are you going to find a teacher who really knows how to teach you English correctly? How are you going to find a teacher who students say is the very best teacher in the world? You probably won't be able to do it, or if you do it, then it's going to take you a very long time. Before this seminar, you probably studied English and you probably had other teachers. You probably tried lots of things. So why did you come to this seminar? You joined this seminar because you still feel like you need to improve your English and you aren't confident in your speaking skills. Or maybe you feel like you can understand English well, but you still can't speak at all. Or maybe you just can't find the time in your schedule and you need some organization in your life. No matter what the reason is, there's one main fact here. You still can't speak English at the level that you want. So option number 2 is you keep doing the same things that you have been doing and you keep studying without my help, but you know what the result will be because you already had the result before you joined this seminar. Option number 3 is the one that will really change things for you. You can ask for my help by joining this amazing program that I've created. I've already told you how effective it is, and you've seen other students who have got results from studying with me. Students from lots of countries all over the world have studied with me and taken their English to the next level. There's a reason they think I'm the best. It's results. They say that I'm one of the best teachers in the world because of the results my students get. So if you want results, then you're in the right place today. Option number 3 means you get lessons with professional teachers. You get lessons with native speaking teachers from English speaking countries. You get a special student chat to use 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. You get live lessons where you can practice speaking. You get speaking partners from around the world. You get a supportive community that will help you and motivate you. You get recorded lessons so you never miss anything. And that's going to help you start speaking English correctly and confidently, and that's really going to take your English to the next level. So if that's what you want, then the Everyday English program is for you, and you're really going to love what I'm going to tell you next. The students who have joined have told me that they learned English and started speaking from this program, and I think that's great. That's already a really amazing thing. But they've also told me that it has changed their lives, because now they can do what they could never do before. That's why so many people say that this is the best program in the world and that there's nothing else like this anywhere. And that's because everything in this program is so incredibly valuable. The students who have joined have told me that I shouldn't give anyone a discount because this program is too good. They think that I shouldn't give a discount to anyone because this program is worth so much. And without a discount, if you wanted to join right now without a discount,